Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Car Boss. Is there a leadership vacuum in the auto retail industry? Today, the automotive industry in India is navigating through rapid technological innovation, evolving consumer behaviors, and supply chain disruptions. Effective leadership is crucial now more than ever. In this episode, we'll analyze whether the industry is experiencing a leadership shortfall, the impacts of this potential gap, and the qualities needed to steer the sector towards success. Good morning, Commander, and welcome back to the show.
Morning, Taj. Namaskar to everyone.
Our first question for you today is, strong leadership is critical and imperative for the success of any organization. How does this concept fare in the auto retail industry?
Right. I think before I go into answering your question, I think first let's understand in relevant to our industry, related to our industry, what does leadership mean? That's very important to understand. Now, there are hundreds of books, hundreds of thousands of books written on leadership, which will give different definitions. But in very simple terms, I would define leadership as the ability of a leader to inspire his team or team members or followers, whatever you want to call them, to do their duties, perform their functions voluntarily without being forced. Very, very simple. It is the ability to inspire people. Now, why I'm using this word inspire? Because there is also a different version of leadership, which is practiced in our industry, very, very rampant in our industry, which I would call manipulative leadership. What is this manipulative leadership? Here, the leader, instead of inspiring people, will force people by very unethical, practices. It could be like shouting, abusing, threatening people, etc. Saying, look, if you don't do your work, you're not going to get promotion. I'm going to cut down your incentive. I will transfer you here, etc., etc. This is all basically threatening that you do to manipulate your team members to perform. That's also a kind of leadership. No, that kind of leadership doesn't sustain for long because this is a short-term benefits. It will finally collapse. So we should understand that what we are talking about is, what we call inspirational leadership or inspiring leadership. This is what we must understand. That's the first part. The second part is in terms of why do we need, leadership, strong leadership in the top? Why is it important to have leadership, or is it okay? Organizations run on their processes, run on their hierarchies, etc. Is leadership important? No, it is similar to what the human body requires. Human body requires pure oxygenated blood, very highly rich in oxygen. The moment the oxygen levels in the blood comes down, what happens is the organs start to underperform. And if this condition persists for a period of time, you will find organ failure happens. And going to a further extent, you will find there are multi-organ failures, and finally it leads to death of a person. The same thing happens in organization. A strong leadership is like the bloodline of a human body. So if you don't have a strong leadership, what it leads to is you will find performances coming down across various sections of the organization. Various, it could be finance, it could be in terms of sales, service, after sales, etc. All this starts to come down. Now, if you don't arrest it, then what happens is it leads to loss of revenues. It comes, profitability starts to deteriorate. And over a period of time, you will find organizations limp along, and sometimes they even close down. And we know so many cases of where leaderships have closed down simply because of the fact they have failed to perform. And we don't really look at it, but if you really analyze, it is because of poor leadership that they reach that state of collapse. So this is what happens. Now, how in our discussion today, I will actually deal only with leadership on the top. Now, we'll ask why we are only talking about top leadership. When I talk about top leadership in a car dealership, it's basically the top is a dealer principal. Yeah. If the dealer principal is hands-on running the day-to-day affairs, then he takes the responsibility of the organization. In case he is not running day-to-day operations, then I suppose he delegates to the next in line, could be a CEO or a general manager or what. That is the second line. So these two actually form the top leadership of a car dealership. Now, why I'm restricting to the top leadership is I want to give another example. There's a famous saying that fish rots in the head first. That means if you want to know how fresh or good a fish is, you go to the market. All you need to do is to check the head of the fish. You open the flaps out.
Yeah.
If you see it is blood red, then you can be sure that the fish is fresh, the body is fresh, good to buy.
Yeah.
If it is pale, obviously that means the rot has set in on the head and it is going to spread to the body, and it would have probably even spread already, which means the fish is not good. The same analogy applies in organization as far as leadership is concerned. If the top is rot, the body is gone, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think, what we need to do is to only look at the top leadership, because it is not that the other echelons of leadership hierarchy is not important. They're important. But if you have a person on the top, a very strong leader, he will make sure that the hierarchy down is taken care of. If he has weak people, he will adjust to that. He'll correct it. He'll change whatever he needs to do. So we will concentrate on the top leadership, which is basically the CEO or the dealer principal, if he's a person who is hands-on on the running the dealership. Now, how to know if a dealership has a strong leadership at the top or not? Very, very simple things. There are basically two factors which stand out. First is a performance. When I talk about performance, it is across all functions in a dealership. It could be sales, service, it could be after sale, in terms of pre-owned car, auto finance, value-added services. Every aspect of dealership operations which is revenue generating will show you. Even CSI, it may not be revenue generating, but these are all very important indicators of the health of a dealership. Now, if you look at this, you will find where you find consistently performances coming down. Now, temporary glitches are okay. It happens in every organization. That get fixed. That could be a one-off aberration. But what we're looking at is a very consistent, very permanent kind of low performance, which is going to be a worry. Now, if you put these questions to dealership, many will say, look, we are doing better than the co-dealer. Now, please remember, the co-dealer is not your benchmark.
Yes.
The benchmark has to be set by you as to what should be a performance. Let me take one case. If you're looking at inquiry conversion in sales, now you'll say my co-dealer is having an inquiry conversion of 15%. I'm doing 20%, so I'm doing great. To me, that's definitely not the benchmark. I would look at the benchmark as inquiry conversion should be anything upwards of 40%. So that is the kind of benchmark that you should set yourself and then monitor, are you performing well or you're not performing. So in an organization where the top leadership is weak, you will definitely find you are much below the benchmarks. You are actually bleeding. Organization may be making a little amount of money, but not good enough to be running the organization well. And if you could recall one of our earlier episodes, we talked about how dealerships are not able to get good quality manpower simply because of the fact that their finances don't support, high income people coming in. Yes. So these are all things that starts to affect a dealership. So very important is the performance to be monitored. That will show you whether you're doing well or not. The second indicator of a weak leadership is attrition of manpower. Now, how this happens is, if a dealership is not doing well, you will find the ability of some of the very ambitious people to earn incentives and other perks starts to reduce. And for them who are very ambitious, who want to earn money, and they find, okay, this dealership is not doing well, I don't have the potential to earn here, I would rather move out. So you will find a steady flow out of good talent from an organization when the leadership is weak on top. The second reason as to why attrition happens is, yes, weak leadership on the top, breeds very poor work ethics, what you call corporate culture. And once that happens, you will find that these, bad work culture, they become very toxic, and normally they target good quality manpower. That means high caliber, high performing people are targeted by those who are not doing well because they feel threatened by these guys, and they will make sure that the good quality manpower are pushed out of the dealership. So you will find attrition happening of very high caliber, personnel that you have. So these are the two indicators that will tell you whether an organization has got good leadership or a weak leadership. Now, I think if you look at our industry, and I'm being very practical in this, I'm very, very honest about it. I don't think even 20% of dealerships have good, strong leadership on top. Very serious. Because, like I said, you put the benchmarks, not like what the co-dealer is doing, but benchmark that you are supposed to achieve, which should be the norm for a good organization. You don't find even 20% achieving this consistently. So what happens is that you are just running along. You go on, you make money sometimes, you lose money. In the process, you find the quality of manpower deteriorates. So it is just a survival that happens. So it's a very, very serious matter that today we are not having strong leadership. And our whole ecosystem is not geared to attracting good talent because of the fact that we are not paying good money because we don't have. The second part is also because of the fact that people learn leadership styles from the senior guys or from an organization.
Yes.
If the organizations themselves are weak, how are they going to create the next generation of good leaders? That itself doesn't happen. So it's a very, very sad situation. I've seen it in my association with industry. Many of them are very, very poor, and sad to say, and I'm being very honest, most of the problem lies not even with the CEO or the GM. It starts with the dealer principals because most of the cases, they're running the show. So
Right.
this is a very alarming state. And unless this is addressed, I think we will continue to be struggling along rather than being a very efficient and a very, very valued industry, in the country. It will be looked down. It will be not an industry of choice as far as people seeking jobs are concerned. That's a state.
Yeah. So what are your suggestions, Commander, to address this situation?
I think it's quite simple. In fact, the problems we know it's poor leadership. I think in the case of CEOs or dealer principals where the top leadership is weak, I think what is important is to accept the fact, the reality. Unless you are able to accept the facts, the reality, then there is no beginning. Because if you keep on saying that, look, I'm the best, I don't need any other further advice, I don't need to improve any further, then I think it's a gone case. Then we close the chapter. But if people are willing, and I'm anyone who wants to do well at the dealership must be very open to it and open to self-introspect. And if you feel there is a problem, which is definitely is there if you are running the show and the organization not doing well, I think you need to seek professional help. Very important. Now, many people feel very embarrassed. Oh, I'm the dealer principal. How do I seek help from somebody? I think it is very short-sighted because if you look at the world over, the best CEOs around the world have advisors or gurus or mentors from real top-class, professionals who actually mentor them.
Yeah, that's very true.
They mentor them. There is nothing ashamed to be about it because you could be going somewhere and somebody can give an input which can correct your performance and make the organization so much better. So I think they must seek professional. That's the only way that they can change. Because I've seen many people, dealer principals, who definitely need help and they don't seek help or they don't want help. And I don't think anyone wants to go and give help to somebody who's not voluntarily trying to seek help.
Yes.
So as far as dealer principal is, they have to seek help. Now, if you find that CEOs are not good, there's an issue of quality of leadership. I think it is for the dealer principals to advise them or even them. I think they should be put through some training, some kind of professional help where they can improve their skills, make the corrections to wherever they're going wrong. Now, if you're talking about people down the line, other echelons of leadership, I think there should be constant training, constant evaluations, teaching them the right, skills, right qualities of leadership. That should be an ongoing process in every dealership. So this can help. But going further, I would think, like I mentioned a little earlier, that people pick up these habits of leadership, especially the juniors who come up and who get onto the leadership roles. They pick up a lot of the leadership skills from the organization. When I talk about organization, it is from the seniors. So it's very important that you have a good lot of seniors so that they can imbibe good qualities on people down the line so that they become good leaders. Now, unfortunately, that's not happening. And a very classic example I can narrate is, I remember in one of the dealerships, the CEO was a guy who, with the moment he stepped into this organization, he starts to scream. There is nothing known as soft conversation, soft, dialogues. He starts to scream, at any and everybody who comes around. So what happens is people, run helter-skelter because nobody wants to come in front of a rampaging tiger. So what happens is people, sometimes do the job simply to make sure that they don't have to fall in front of it. So he always thought that he's getting job done by his style of management, which is leadership, which is screaming and threatening people.
Right.
Now, why I narrated this is one of the persons who were associated with me, who has been my colleague earlier. I met him, a few months later, and I came to know that this guy also started shouting at people. So I asked him, I said, where have you picked up this habit? I said, because I know that in our organization, this was something which is never done. So he told me, he said, sir, I have this CEO. I found, this works.
Yeah.
So you see, I had to explain to him. I said, it worked simply because not people are, inspired to follow you. They have been manipulated. So to escape your anger, your fury, they may do something, but it doesn't sustain. That's not the way to do it. You will find many people run away and leave the organization and go. I said, you check out the attrition that must be happening in your dealership. He said, yes. So what I'm trying to say is people learn poor qualities of leadership from the organization because of the senior. So very important is to correct the skills, the abilities, and the qualities of leadership at the top level so that the impact down the line is positive. That's very important. Now, I would want to give 5 simple practices which can help a person become a good leader. These are very simple, no great rocket science here, just simple practices, but you got to be committed, you got to believe that you can do this, and you want a desire to do this. The first practice that you must adapt is that you must believe that you want to be an example for everyone in your dealership, everyone who is part of your team or others. You set yourself as an example. Now, when I say this, I mean in everything that you do, the way you dress, the way you groom yourself, the way you talk to people, the way you greet people, the way you follow rules and regulations of the organization, your honesty and integrity, every aspect of your behavior, of your conduct, must be an example to people in the organization. I don't think it is difficult, but you have to make a conscious effort, because I know people who always come late to work and expect juniors, to come in time. It doesn't work.
Right.
Or you are shabbily dressed, you expect others to be dressed properly. Or you scream and shout and expect other person to be polite. No, you got to set a personal example. And all that you need to do is to be very conscious about where am I going wrong, take feedback from people, correct it. If you can set yourself as an example for the rest of the team, I think it's the first thing that goes in the way of making a good leader, setting as a personal example. The second practice that one can adopt is to make sure you're professionally very, very up there, very, very competent, because you can't be as head of sales without knowing how even to sit with the customer and convert a case. I know many cases where managers run away, sales guys run away from a difficult customer, telling the consultant, you handle it, I can't handle it. Now, what kind of example are you setting? What kind of message are you sending to your team members? So a leader has to be professionally very, very competent. He must be able to do better than people below him in whatever, whether it is a guy in the service center or whether the guy is a finance manager. You should be able to do things better than what his team members do. So professional competency cannot be compromised. It has to be right on top to be a good leader. That is something that you have to expect. And if you become a leader without being professionally competent, I think it's time to retire, because I don't think there is any way that you can go further. You've got to be professionally very competent. The third practice is getting to know your people very, very well. When I say getting to know your people who work with you, it's not just about knowing the name of the guy, which place is he coming from, what kind of vehicle he uses. Those are superficial. It's important to know. But I think what is more important to know is his family background, his aspirations, his difficulties in life, his challenges in life. Now, it's not about getting to become too personal or getting to know his personal secrets. No, it's about knowing that person, because these are very important for you to help him out in his workplace. Because if you know a person has got a lot of challenges at home in terms of financial requirements, you should encourage him to earn more incentive, so that he can have more money, which can meet his financial needs. So getting to know your people is very important. Now, how do you do this? It's not so easy. It doesn't happen just by talking to a guy, just off the cuff. I think there must be a very concerted effort from the leader to sit with an individual often. I mean, every one of your team, and I'm not talking just one person, in rotations, call the person to your office, sit down over a cup of chai, spend about 30, 45 minutes chatting with him, let him open up. He will only open up if you know that, you are not making this into an interview. It is like a chit chat where you should be friendly. That guy will open up, may not open up so much in the first time, but maybe the second day. But I think this must be a constant process of conversation with your team members. If you get to know your people well, I can tell you one, they will not let you down. They will never let you down.
True.
Because they say, look, this man is so concerned. You look at this very, very factually. If you talk to a person and he says, I have a problem at home, my father is sick. And the next time you meet him, he said, how is it, dad? Is there any improvement? Is there anything I can do for you? No, he says, look at this person. He's empathizing with.
Yes.
These are very important. So I think, you must get to know your people well. That is one practice that will help you to become a good leader. The fourth is the ability to counsel your team members to perform better. We always give a lot of respect in regards to people who teach us. You as a leader should not only be a leader, you should also be a teacher. If one of your team members is not doing well, you should sit with him. Go deep into his performance, find out where he's going wrong, what help he requires, how he can do better. You should become like a tutor, a guru to him. And this you can do provided, one is, of course, you should have the inclination. The second is professional competence. If you have that, you sit with him and tell him, look, where you're going wrong, what is the kind of help I'm going to give you, and how I'm going to make sure that you're going to perform well. And you see how much of gratitude he develops for you because of the fact that you helped him to get better. That is a very, very important aspect and a very good practice that you must adopt. You must do it. And the final, which is very simple again, is you must have a level playing field for everybody. Fairness across everyone in the team. You cannot treat anyone in a different way. Everyone must be treated well, treated the same manner. There should be no preferential treatment or giving preferences or special treatment to anyone. People should feel that with my leader, he sees everyone with the same prism. Everyone with the same prism. That is very important. When they acknowledge you as a fair playing person that treats everybody same way, I think the respect goes up more. I think these 5 practices, I can assure you, will make you a good quality leader. And I don't think these are things where you need any investment. The only investment you require is your time and your attitude and your commitment to it. If you do this, I feel, you can be a good leader. Overall, I would say, if I have to give an assessment of our industry, particularly in, what I know of in Bangalore, we have a long way to go to catch up as far as leadership is concerned. And unless this is very seriously addressed, any kind of changes that you try to make down the line has no impact. It is only you got very temporary, effect. You feel, you change a team leader, you're going to get better. Yes, it might for a while. But if you're not going to be a good leader, this team leader is not going to perform, he'll even. So I think this needs to be addressed. And the earlier we address and very conscientiously we address, we will not do better. And I think it is very important for the industry and for the people who work in dealerships that the top leadership must be of the best caliber.
Thank you, Commander, for your experience. Thank you all for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you very soon on the next one.
Thank you. Thank you, Taj.